We have 3 people waiting now.
Are you looking for a faster video? Well, today it's a live stream, and I know you're probably looking for a really nice and tidy, edited down video, but I have ways for you to make it faster. You can click that little gear on the
Up,
YouTube
watch
settings right there
now.
on the video
So
and
live, a
adjust the
chat
playback
between sewing
speed, make it sound like a
professionals.
chipmunk, and it'll go a lot faster. You can also look and see if there's timestamps for this project in the description, and if
See,
you're
I
on a
should
desktop, you can hover
have,
over the
it
time
never even
bar at the
occurred
bottom
to
of the
me.
screen and see if
The
it's
funny thing is
chunked
my
up into
printer guy,
chapters, and then
he's
that way
telling
you
me all
can go
these tips. You
directly to
should
the
do
step you are
premieres and
looking
you
for.
should you should
And
promote
lastly, you can
your
also
streams
tap
on
on
your
the screen
Instagram. I
on
was
the
telling me all
right-hand
this. I'm
side
like, yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
video
yeah, yeah,
picture
yeah,
or
yeah.
on the
And
left-hand
there you
side to make the video
oh,
jump ahead, forward or backward if you're on a mobile device. And you can adjust that amount
one
in your
person left
settings
my
so you
waiting room.
can
Now
have
I only have
complete
2.
control over how much it jumps. So if you are on a desktop, you can use the fast forward or the rewind, and that will make it go faster as well. You can also enable subtitles, and the little CC on the screen will enable closed captioning. That
Oh
way,
yeah,
if
I'm
I am
good.
a
I
little
don't
bit
care.
harder to understand with that double playback speed, the subtitles might help you out. All right, well, I know that it's not a nice little edited video, but if you sew with me, we'll get there together and it'll be lots of fun. And now for the live stream. Happy sewing!
It was like one of those hot mic situations. Oh, did the technical stuff work out? Start my stream. Um, I don't see that. I just see, I clicked my start stream and it's streaming and it says, oh, go live. I'm going to click go live, okay? Hi, Joe. Welcome. Technical stuff worked out. You can view us. You can view here. I put on my Instagram that if I couldn't figure it out to go over to your channel because I wasn't sure when I posted on Instagram. We're good.
So you guys, okay, everybody let us know. Can you see us and hear us? We're both live streaming on both our channels. So everyone in my channel, let me know. It sounds like you guys could hear me. I don't know how you guys could hear me. That's crazy. But we're here, and we didn't talk smack about you, so that's good. So let me know. And welcome. This is really exciting.
Hi, Jan.
There's an echo. How is there an echo?
Oh, I don't hear an echo over here.
Can't hear you. I believe there's an echo on Jen's side. Do you guys have both of us open? Jen has an echo.
Oh.
Why do you have an echo?
I don't hear the echo.
Oh, I know. I think it's because you're hearing Jen through my microphone. That's probably what it is. So I'm going to turn down my volume.
Should I turn down my volume
no,
too?
No, don't turn down your volume.
Okay.
But speak clearly so I can hear you.
Okay.
All right. So, okay. Only I am open. What does that mean?
Oh, Linda says, all good here, no echo. Hi, Carol. Hi, Sally. Hi, Dawn.
Why are you guys saying only Saremy is open? What does that mean? You have just me. You see her and both fine. Some people are like, see and hear you both fine. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Rachel. I think that you're right. That's what it was.
Okay.
Okay. Jen's audio is great now. Okay. All I had to do is turn down my audio coming from my computer, so my microphone didn't pick you up, Jen.
Hey.
We got it going. You guys do not know what this took. This is a kind of a really unique thing to do, to two people live stream on one screen at the same time. It's not very common, and it is a little bit of a technical fire hoop jumping type of thing. I'm trying to pull up my chat on my no. I'm trying to
Yeah, but we
there
did
we go.
it.
On my phone just to double check the stream looks okay. But we did it. We did it. This is great. I'm so excited. It's really nice to see some of you. I've never seen some of your names and faces here. I'm Saremy if you've never been here before. And this is Jen Stern. Her YouTube channel is J Stern Designs. And Jen, why don't you tell us just a little bit about you? This is, just to be clear, everybody, I'm not going to be interviewing Jen today. That's not what we're doing here. I have a fun topic to talk about, but let's still hear a little bit more. Let's hear about Jen. Tell us a little bit about you
Hey,
and what
everybody.
you do.
What I do? Well, I started out, I started my YouTube channel because I wanted to share, different things I was working on. And the funny story is when I first started, I was afraid of the camera. I couldn't get a sentence out without raising my eyebrows and stopping and starting. So I literally had to force myself to get comfortable in front of the camera, which I think I am now. And so what I really enjoy doing is just sharing fitting tips. I have Fit Tip Tuesday where I show how to fit things, and I'm in a huge pants project right now because I'm going to be releasing a new pants pattern the last Tuesday of the month. And then on Fridays, I'm live at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And that's basically a more hands-on what I'm working on, or I show a technique or a project, and sometimes it's a sew along.
And it's
And really
called
that's
Fab Fit Fridays.
Fab Fit Friday. And it's really, it's really the highlight of my week because I'm always so humbled that people actually take time out of their day to tune in and watch
Right?
what I'm
Yeah.
doing. And so I'm always amazed by the fact that people, want to join in and look at what I'm doing. And I discovered the joy of watching live streams though, because I don't really watch very many because I don't have time, but I have watched Saremy. And I have to say, like, as we became more friendly and we started to get together and talk about stuff, I really enjoy her live streams because she's just so casual and easygoing. And, I just, I love watching what
Making
she's,
mistakes left and right.
yeah.
That's me.
I'm the queen of that, by the way. So making mistakes. But anyway, so that's, what I'm here for. I'm going to try to do more. I purchased one of those Loom Cube ring lights
Yeah.
because I want to do more shorts and it has a cool clip for the phone. But how many have I done? One. So I'm going to finish reorganizing my studio so I can, maybe have that permanently set up somewhere. So if I want to shoot a short using that, I can just go instead of taking it out of its very nice bag where it's safely stowed away now.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I think
Yeah.
the short form content is the buzzword right now. I've been experimenting a little bit. It's not my main thing. I could talk for hours about it. It's very boring stuff, but I'm interested, and so is Jen. We love nerding out on this stuff. It's really nice for me to meet someone who is a sewing person plus doing this because there's so much that goes on in the background with live streaming. This isn't what we're professionals in. So the fact that we can pull it off is really cool. There's a lot of chat happening on my channel, which I'm loving, and I'm sorry I'm not responding to everything. You guys know I usually try and respond to everything. I don't see a single mod here either, but hopefully everything is good. So if you have a question you really need answered, just keep asking. I'll eventually see it, but I'm not going to answer questions right now. So I have a topic today. This was just
Well,
some
wait a minute.
crazy...
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Before you start talking about the topic, you should talk about yourself because just in
Your
case.
viewers might not know me. Yeah.
That's right. So you need to introduce yourself too.
Okay, well, my name is Saremy. I always, when I introduce myself, tell people it rhymes with Jeremy. And before you ask where that's from, my mom she couldn't decide between Sarah and Emily, or there's two stories, that one, or my mom wanted Sarah, my dad wanted Emily, or the vice versa. So they put it together and became Saremy. And I have been sewing since high school. I didn't want to learn to sew. It's kind of a bratty story that I won't share yet right now. But I ended up really being interested in the engineering side of sewing, like how patterns go together. And I went straight into fashion school. So I graduated from FITM, which is the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. It's like the East Coast Parsons or FIT, FIT. Really great school. And I've been working in the garment industry or independent ever since. My last business was a line of accessories that I designed, and we sewed everything on site. I had a little factory, and I had to close. It was doing really good. It was, we made accessories for knitters and crocheters. It was called Chicken Boots. and it was a very successful business, and I had to close it abruptly for reasons because I hate explaining this because I don't want you to get the wrong idea. I did not lose my business in a fire, but there was a devastating fire in my community here called the Camp Fire, and that devastated so much around me that I couldn't keep doing my business. My sewists lost everything, my parents, brother, everybody. I did not. My home was totally fine. It was just one of those weird things, and that's what I needed to focus on. I had started live streaming on the side for fun and just to help other people do production stuff because I just love talking about sewing, and I love production, and I love factories, and I love, I've worked in a lot of factories, and I really love it. And that's why I wanted to start, but it really became clear people wanted me to sew home sew patterns, which I hadn't done in years. And so I'm kind of new to the home sewing world, and so I started that right before the fire. Like, I'd been streaming for 4 or 5 months. And I just kind of continued after the fire, after I closed my business, and here I am. I'm still trying to figure out the home sewing world. It's been like 4.5 years. And yeah, and I live stream sewing projects start to finish and some how-to videos. So, Rayanne, oh my gosh, Rayanne. Rayanne was my assistant. So Rayanne was my A1, #1 sewer. My pal, you're gonna make me cry. I can't believe you're here. She's my partner in crime. She really made chicken boots happen. I miss it. So
Eliza,
anyway.
Eliza the Pudge Professor says, I love both Jen and Saremy, my 2 favorite streamers, with about 15 exclamation points. That's nice. Thank you so much, Eliza.
I love Eliza.
Tell them about your spoonflower fabric. I went and looked at it, and I was so amazed how much you have on there.
Oh gosh, I am terrible. I got lucky with one print, which was knit print in something I did to chicken boots. And that's it. I got lucky with knit print. And the others are just like little things I've been trying.
They're cool,
I dabble.
Yeah, they're cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I love spoonflower. So that is the Rayanne, Elena. The Rayanne, you're a celebrity here. All right, so let's get to the secret topic. I hope you guys like it. All right, so this is my topic. Let's see if I have it. Do I have it written down? Okay. Jen, how do you feel about the sewing level difficulty that is written on home sewing patterns? Like, do you have opinions? Yeah, so this is kind of something that comes up occasionally in my community, and I'm curious how you feel about how some home sewing patterns are labeled as far as the difficulty goes.
Okay, well, so that's an interesting question for me because I don't look at other people's patterns and I don't purchase other people's patterns, but when I was learning to sew, I did use other people's patterns, and I would always look to see if it says, oh, for beginners or for intermediate or for advanced, especially when I was cruising through like the Vogue pattern book or the, Simplicity or whatever. So I think they're helpful, but I think the thing that's more important is how well the instructions are, because something that's labeled for a beginner, if the instructions are not good, then it's not for a beginner, because a beginner doesn't know that just because it's in print doesn't mean it's right. It took me a long time to realize, like, if I was trying to do something in a sewing pattern and it wasn't working, I assumed it was me. Mm-hmm. And then as I learned more, I realized, wow, maybe the instructions are wrong. So for me, it's more about the quality and easiness of the instructions, I think.
I like that distinction. I don't think I've thought of it from that standpoint where, okay, fine, label it beginner, but there better be some hand holding. Right. Because I also have, one of my things later on today I was going to ask you was, how detailed do you like sewing instructions? Because there's a lot of discussion about that. I think if you learn to sew before 2000, instructions weren't very detailed. They're just, there would be a glossary, and that was about it. And then you would sew. And that, I feel like that has changed a lot. So one of the things, I want to know, what do you consider beginning or intermediate or advanced skills? Like, you don't have to tell me your whole long list because I'm just springing this on you, but do you have things that, or maybe what you think is not beginner? What do you think is a not beginner skill, but you do see it sometimes on something labeled that?
I think so. I categorize garments almost like the garment tells me if it's a beginner, intermediate, or advanced sewing. So
Yeah.
things that are like a front, a back, and a sleeve could be beginner, or something that has a little bit of detail that you now have to gather or make things fit because the seams don't match because of extra
A
foam.
dart or something like
Dart,
that.
yeah, darts and things would be a little bit advanced beginner. Things that are advanced would be things that require a lot of fitting. So, like, I don't want a beginner to pick up a pattern and just look at their measurement, pick out a size, cut it out and sew it, and then, end up with something that doesn't fit because that turns people off from sewing. So
Yeah.
I think, I think the style of the garment, and when you were saying, oh, what do you think about when labeling those things? I don't put those labels on my pattern. I try to
Yeah.
use them in the title. So I'll say easy fit and sew yoga pants or, easy fit and sew raglan. So all of my easy patterns say easy in the name. And then the rest of my patterns don't say easy and they're hard. So like jeans,
Right.
or, things like that. So I think things that require a lot of fitting am I answering your question?
Yeah, no, I'm up for the discussion of anything. I think the thing I see a lot, and I think I'm guilty of this on a couple of my patterns, of writing advanced beginner or adventurous beginner, and I have issue with that. I think my theory right now is that pattern companies write beginner or advanced beginner or adventurous beginner on things because they want to sell more patterns. But
Oh,
in
that's a
my
good
opinion,
one.
I feel like, because then they're like, anybody can sew this, right? And
Yep.
anybody can, depending on how well supported, like you're saying, the instructions are, or their blog posts or whatever. I'm of the opinion that you shouldn't have to navigate away from the written instructions that came from your
Yes.
pattern in order to sew it. But that being said, I can use a bulleted list or no instructions to sew things. So I know I'm not the normal person that's buying a pattern and looking at it. Prior to live streaming, I didn't buy home sewing patterns, I drafted them. So home sewing patterns have really changed a lot since I was younger and I was learning. So I think that, and my theory on why they do this, besides selling more patterns, is to sell more patterns. But one of my theories of why I think this is a bad idea is that if people don't finish their pattern, they're not going to post about it. They're not going to talk about it. They're going to be frustrated. They may not come back. And I think like that, like walking them down the path of like, come here, adventurous beginner. And then they're like, oh my gosh, this is a dark, scary forest. What is happening here? And I don't think that that's a really great way to give candies to children. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's deceptive and it's not very supportive. And why is there something wrong with being honest about the pattern and just saying it's intermediate or like you said, like how you say you put it in the title, easy fit and sew or whatever.
Right.
I think what I like, and so to absolve me a little bit of the guilt of saying, oh, this is intermediate or advanced intermediate, and really it might be advanced. I also say these are the skills that you're going to use in this pattern.
Yes.
It's heavy duty, it's binding, or whatever. You know what I mean?
That's common in knitting patterns. Like when you buy a knitting pattern, I'm a beginner knitter, and it will say, you need to know how to do this magic cast on, and you need to know how to do this and this and this. And that might be something I can add. I also try to put an illustration for every step. So when people are reading instructions, they can follow along with an illustration. And I just want to say, John commented here, he said, as a beginner, I've only used store-bought patterns and I had to Google much of what it was telling me to do. So that's really a hard thing too. Like if you have a pattern and then you have to go research how to do it.
Yeah.
That's like.
Yeah, well, I think like that disconnect it's probably the whole, I feel like, my grandma talking, they got rid of home ec. And it's like, like I said earlier, like the patterns I grew up sewing with grew up basically sewing was forced on me, and I loved it, and I didn't want to admit it. That's basically what happened in high school, right? But I had a teacher there, right? They were walking me through. I learned with the instructions. The instructions were minimal. They told me the truth. We all know how sometimes the truth isn't quite accurate sometimes, but for the most part, the instructions were truthful. I just may not have known how to do what they were telling me to do. It's like the equivalent of saying, now insert the zipper fly. That's all it said. Well, where do there was no Google then.
Well, see, now an advantage that I have, I teach classes. So when I teach sewing classes, and almost every class I teach involves a pattern, I teach with my pattern. So when I put a pattern out and then I go teach with it, I can see what the students are having trouble with. And I actually will go back and rewrite or edit my instructions. I'm not one of those people who, once it's written in stone, it's done. I'm very fluid with things. So if something didn't come out just right, and I try to also send my patterns to a few pattern testers to run through the instructions and just see if they make sense for the level of sewist I'm trying to target. So I think that helps me when I'm writing my instructions, because I have that in-classroom experience working hands-on with students. So I know where the trouble area can be sometimes, I think.
Well, right before the stream started, me and Jen were talking about something, and I said, at the last business I had, Chicken Boots, 50% of my job, and Rayanne can vouch for me for this, was not getting customer emails. And so I was telling her, like, if someone was, like, I got a lot of emails about a particular product, they couldn't find where the magnet was on it. We had this pattern holder that was really popular, and they couldn't find the magnet on it. I wouldn't be like, I would explain to them, obviously, but I wouldn't be like, how could you not see it, right? I'm not going to say that. I would realize this is a problem. Like, it's so subtle, they can't see this. I need to solve this at the front end. So just like you're saying, like, just deal with it, right? You're seeing this come up repeatedly with your students.
Right.
Why would you just leave it that way? Because then you're just going to get a lot of emails. You're going to get frustration. People won't finish the project. They won't. And now we're living in this world of posting about it, which gets other people excited about it. And if they're not going to finish your project, I just think that you're shooting yourself in the foot by selling a bill of goods that's not accurate. When do you see patterns labeled intermediate or advanced? It's so rare. So rare.
See it in the big box. Like if I go to Joann's and I'm just breezing through and I look through the pattern catalog, I did purchase a pajama bottom pattern to make my nephew's pajama pants for Christmas, because I just didn't want to deal with, fussing around with one of my own patterns. And, so you flick around and you look, and they do have that in there. But, again, I'm a little, like for me, when I teach, one of the questions is usually, is this for beginners, intermediate, or advanced? So I get to say it there, usually more often than my actual printed patterns. But I might add more information. I think what I'm going to do, I'm getting so many perks from this, by the way. I hope you're enjoying the audio, and I'm going to credit that to Saremy, because my husband had to help me learn to set this up. In the process of that, he figured out my audio problem, I think, for good. But also I'm getting all these cool tips. So I think going forward in my patterns, I'm going to have a list of skills you need to make the garment. I love that idea. I love that.
Yeah, just like, I think how I phrase it and how I've seen it phrased other places, you can expect to do these, and the three, like welt pockets, a zipper fly, and matching plaid. I don't know. I mean, I guess you're not telling people what fabric they're picking out, but just that kind of expectation, because maybe someone's like, wait, there's a fly in this? I didn't even see the fly in there. Oh, I'm not really in the mood. That's not the kind of garment I want. I need a fast project. I don't have the time to learn something right now. Find a different pattern. Make people successful, buying your pattern. I have so many comments right now.
I know. I have a few, but you go ahead. You go with yours.
I think there's a lot of agreement here. Mary Jarvis said, one way of thinking about it to me is to think about the pattern as if it's written in a foreign language. If you look at it and you already have the skill to do it, then go ahead. I like that, because basically what you're saying, Mary, is like, I've sewn something like this before. Even if I can't understand the instructions, I'll be okay. That's kind of an interesting place we're in, if that's how you have to think of it, though, to buy the pattern. I think that I feel like I'm a little old-fashioned in that I don't think patterns need to teach you how to sew. It's okay if they're like, you know, like what I like, I always like a bolded list and then I like instructions. Hardly anyone does it that way. I just want to know how they've designed their pattern. I know a pattern can go together 4 or 5 different ways, and so I want to know how they do it, right?
Mhm.
Um, I I will appreciate instructions how they do their fly because there's a few different ways to do that, and I just want to know that everything's going to line up, so I do it the way they. But I just will glance at it and go, oh, okay, I know which way they're doing this, right?
Mhm.
Um, I don't think they should have to teach you, you know, every little thing from there. It's not a class, you know, but I think they need to spell out the way they decided to do something or the order in which they decided to do it, you know.
I've started to put QR codes in my instructions to videos on my YouTube. So like when my new pants pattern comes out, I have a unique front pocket construction, a
Yeah.
put on fly with a zipper shield. And so I'm doing those on my Fat Fit Fridays as a lead in to the launch of the pattern at the end of the month. So then I can put a QR code to that. And then if people want the extra class, they can
Yeah.
go to the channel and and see it there. And I just want to say Olivia is very excited. She made it on time and she really enjoyed both of us. And Jerry said it's magic having us both together
A
and
what together?
together, you and me.
Oh,
Like with Jerry,
it is.
yeah.
It does feel like magic, Jerry. Trust me.
It does.
There was a lot of hoop jumping.
I'm like so excited with the way this came out.
Yeah, this is pretty
Um,
cool.
oh,
There are
so
really expensive apps to do this, but we weren't going to go that route quite yet.
yes. Oh,
I
we
have
have
a billion comments, so I'm just going to scroll back a little bit. Let's see here.
Daily Dedication loves this, and she's a brand spanking new sewist here. Well, welcome,
Ooh,
welcome, welcome.
welcome to the huge world of sewing. So
Yes.
Jane says, advanced means fitting. Those years of battling with Vogue patterns where the fit on the body bore no resemblance to the drawing. I hear you on this. Regina says, it's more about technique that determines the level for someone. Is it more about technique that determines the level for someone? Well, as far as, in my opinion, technique is how you go about things. Like if you watch the way I sew a collar, it'd be probably really different than the way Jen does, even if it's the exact same collar. So we have different techniques to do it. But as far as like the like the modules of your sewing instructions, you know, like a zipper fly, you know, I think that it's okay to say that's advanced. It once you learn how to sew and you've sewn a few, you're like, that's not hard. Before you did it though, it's kind of a confounding, weird little thing. And I talk about how antiquated I think that the zipper fly is. Nobody's redesigned the zipper fly. It's a funky little thing, you know. I would think that would be advanced, right? And see what Beth says. I completely agree. When I first started and bought a pattern, I didn't even know what stay stitch was and had to Google it. It was such a hard learning curve being just alone and having no one to ask. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. You shouldn't have to subscribe to someone on YouTube. Well, I mean, I'm glad you're here, but at the same time, you shouldn't have to do that in order to complete your hobby, right? Mary, okay, I got Mary's here. Yeah, and Elaine says she wouldn't be as far along with her sewing if it wasn't for the in-person sewing courses she took.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, I'm gonna scroll. Oh, there's so many comments. Yeah, and other people are like, yeah, I've been burned by so many instruction booklets that you don't buy a pattern unless you find the video tutorials to go with it. So going back to what you just said and what Adriana just said, have you encountered, because of how you're going to be doing your QR codes and your linking with your video content, which is really smart, have you encountered home sewing patterns that have the interactive, is that the word for it? I know Elaine is probably going to correct me. Interactive instructions. So look, people who come to mind like 5 out of 4 patterns and love Notions, where if you have their instructions up on a tablet or on your computer, there's things hyperlinked and it'll go directly
Mm-hmm.
to instructions. Have you ever done that? And how many of you in the chat utilize the links in live sewing instructions. I think that's what they're called, live sewing instructions. I don't know. I'm not fancy like that. I know how to live stream, but I don't know how to add a link to a PDF. So
I think
have you ever seen that?
it's the way you save it, I think. So when you save your PDF, if you save it as an interactive PDF, I think that's when
You
the
have to
link.
pay for that. That's why I don't do it.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
I can do it in Canva. I can do it in Canva, but that's
I
it.
think that's why I went to QR codes instead. And so now, because you don't even need the QR code scanner anymore app. You can just
Yeah.
point your phone and
Yeah.
it reads it for you. So that's why I think I was putting my URLs to things, but then I realized you couldn't click on them.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a printed pattern, then you really can't click on them. So that's why I went with QR codes.
Yeah, it seems like people are kind of split. Like one person says, I love them. Someone's 100% utilize them. Someone says they don't really use them. Well, and I think, Rachel, what you're saying, especially if they're replacing written words, like they're leaning really heavily on video in order to do it. I'm very suspicious of that too. If you can't tell me how,
Oh, yeah.
I get a little nervous about it. Someone says if they're links, I use them. I don't love it because I usually have paper next to me. I do utilize a link. Yeah, you guys are like 50-50, I would say, every other comment. So
Yeah, some people, so Dawn says I use links occasionally. Deb says new sewer finds them helpful. Oh, and Dawn said this is another thing that I find annoying. And you know how like in our drafting books, like the Helen Joseph Armstrong book is one of my go-tos for drafting.
me too.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of information in there they assume you know.
Yep.
And so Dawn just said, some patterns assume you know things, and if you don't, then that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Likes to sew says she learned by trial and error as well as watching YouTube. I think advanced sew is someone who is able to sew and understand the process of how the garment is constructed.
Yeah.
And John says, well, YouTube is where I learned all of my sewing skills. Well, I'm glad that you did, John. And I'm super glad you have joined us because I think it's so exciting to have an inclusive group. And I mean, I can just say John made an amazing leather vest. I put it in my Facebook group. I might ask him if I can put the pictures on my community tab because we talked about it last week in FabFit Friday and it really came out nice. So I was like tickled pink.
Oh, someone brought up a really good point. Mary said, some indie companies deliberately have scant instructions so they can upsell classes.
Oh yeah, that's a no.
I think I agree, Mary. I haven't really like put it to the test. As a video content creator, I do know that I don't know, I haven't really explored this thought, but I do feel a little nervous when I am doing a sew along for something I know the pattern company sells a video for. Because I'm sure they're going to be like, we don't want you doing that. They can't tell me what to do or what not to do. But I respect the grind. I respect they need to make money. At the same time, if my viewers want to sew something, I'm going to sew it too, so.
When I first started, so I'm wearing my raglan sleeve top right now, and the raglan sleeve top and my yoga pants pattern, I tried a test. I have complete instructions that come with the printed pattern or the PDF, but then I did a complete class and a playlist on my channel. And I thought, let's see if I offer a complete class, is that going to make people more interested in buying the pattern? Yeah. And I'll tell you, the answer was no.
Oh, I thought you were going to say absolutely.
No. So I stopped doing it because it really didn't affect whether people bought those patterns, but they are on there. So if anybody wants to make raglan sleeve or easy fit and yoga pants, or if you're even using someone else's pattern and want some tips for those kind of garments, start to finish.
That's so interesting. I feel like, the only patterns, I mean, I have a lot of patterns on my site, but the like official ones that were Chicken Boots products, those were hard to sew. And they were hard to sew. I mean, ask Rayanne. And people still beg me for certain patterns, and I'm like, no, I just can't put that pattern out there because it's too hard to sew. And
Yeah.
I feel like people are just gonna be frustrated, you know?
Well, when I'm developing a new pattern, like I was working on my front pocket for my pants, for example, and the shape of it was too hard to sew. The curve was just
Yeah.
like, so if I'm struggling with something, I'm like, all right, if I'm struggling, then maybe
Yeah.
I need to change it. So I try to test on myself as I do samples to see, because you're right. Like, why would you put something out that's
Yeah.
hard,
Oh,
hard for people?
totally. Yeah, and I think like, and I guess why I was saying that was that having a video with mine was essential. There was no way I could sell any of my patterns, and I didn't hand draw all my sketches. I used photos
Mhm.
because I that's what I'm capable of, you know. But there was a video. But yeah, you know, like I still agree with my what I said earlier. If you have to have a video to sew it, it's either hard or not well
Mhm.
explained. And in the case of my patterns, they're hard to sew. And so, you know, what are you gonna do? I don't know. It's really tough, you know. All right, let me look at my other questions I have here. Um, do you think there should be levels? Or do you think like what you're saying of just saying, these are the skills we're gonna cover in this instead of saying levels?
I'm not a level fan because I am a beginner and I go for the hard project if I'm not in my arena. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to discourage people by saying it's for something. And then someone will say, well, I'm not there yet, but I want to try it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think maybe putting what's required, then you're informing them. So like,
Yeah.
okay, you can try it, but you're going to need to know this, and this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I think, because I think every person has their own ambition, and I don't want to squish it.
Okay, and then I have a two-part question now. So, do you think of like knit fabric and woven fabric? Do you think of either of those as being harder or easier than one or the other? Like, is there a difficulty level with either of those fabrics? Would you put one below the other as far as difficulty? Or,
No, no, because there is a level of difficulty within each group.
right.
Knits are easy to sew. Some
Mm-hmm.
knits are hard to sew. Some knits
Yeah.
curl. Some knits cling. So, but I also think knit garments are easier to fit. So
Yeah.
I would say, for success of making a garment that's comfortable and easy to wear, and knits are very forgiving, because if you cut it out a little bit wrong, but then you also sew it a little bit wrong, you have a likelihood that it'll still fit if it's if you're making a top or something.
Yeah.
So, I think, and again, I think it's more garment based. Like, what are you making out of that woven fabric?
Yeah.
If you're making a loose pullover tunic out of a woven,
Mm-hmm.
easy. If you're making a darted, fitted something, maybe
Button
not.
down, collar stand. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think like I'm sure you've been asked many times, like I have, what's a good starting garment if I'm a beginner? And my answer is always something you really, really want, because you're more apt to finish it. And
Mm-hmm.
I liken this to like when I learned to knit, and when you learn to knit, they plunk you down with a scarf.
And
A
that's so
scarf is like
boring.
one of the
I've never made
most.
a scarf
Oh,
ever.
I mean, I'll wear it occasionally, but it's the most tedious thing, and it's gonna be like this. I mean, it's just basically you're just knitting and purling, right? You're just learning how to knit and purl, and I appreciate that, but I don't really want it. I'm not that invested. I think a lot of people will stop because they're just like, ugh, this is ugly. I don't want this. I don't want to wear it. But they probably picked out some really cool yarn because eye candy, you know. And so there's a few things fraught with that. So I'm not saying that they should start with a sweater because they really, really want it. But in sewing, I would say if you wear knits, that's all you wear, you don't want wovens, I would absolutely start you in knits. As
Mm-hmm.
long as you have the machinery, you can, sew knits on a straight stitch machine, that's fine. But you gotta kind of know a little bit of subtlety thing. But I would absolutely start someone on knits. I don't think of that as advanced either. I think of it more of like a a desire.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you sew something you're not that into, or
Right.
spend all that money and time on it?
No,
You know?
exactly. Well, you can
Yeah.
buy this for $20, or you could make it with $90 worth of supplies, right? I mean, it's people think, like
Yeah.
they get so silly. Like when I add up all my receipts for something like, wow, I could have just gone out and bought this for
Yeah.
half the price, but you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, you and I have both been sewing since the time where it was cheaper to sew your own clothes,
Mhm.
and we watched it flip. Like it just
It-
suddenly flipped, and it's just not cheaper to sew for yourself anymore. It can be economical once you're like, oh, I've sewn this 10 times now. I know what I'm doing. I can knock it out. You know, your time is getting more compressed. You know, you kind of do that, right? But yeah, so it kind of piggybacking on the knits wovens things. Would you consider a machine type at a skill level? Like, would you consider a serger versus a home machine? We can throw an industrial in there if we want, but I don't feel like that's as very practical for people. But a serger versus a straight stitch, would you consider one over the other level wise?
Well, I view a serger as a microwave oven compared to your stove and
I
oven
like that. Yeah.
being your sewing machine. I teach a class called How to Sew Knits on Your Sewing Machine, and I can actually make knit garments on my sewing machine as
Yep.
durable and lovely as using the serger. But the
Absolutely.
serger is a time saver, and it's more professional looking. So if people ask me about sergers, the first thing I say is, do you want to do the cover hem? Like, if you want to have that double needle professional or even triple needle professional cover
Don't
hem,
buy a serger.
well, no, you either need to buy
You have to buy both.
well, oh, are you, well, no, I'm talking about, do you just need a basic 4-thread serger or do
Oh,
you need a 5-thread, a fancy dancy?
right.
Or if you already have, like, if you have a sewing machine you love and you just want to finish edges, you don't need to spend $1 million on a serger. You can buy a basic serger,
Yeah.
or you can get a cover, like, let's say you just want to hem with it, you can buy a cover stitch
Yeah.
machine. So it just depends on, what people's, what they want to do with them.
Yeah.
But, I can do everything on my sewing machine,
Yeah.
if I need to, but I do like the professional look of the serger to finish edges and hem sometimes.
I think that that's one thing I'll fight in my comments most often with people. Not that I want to, but
Bye,
they don't
Joe.
like one of my videos that's all about how to like that. I totally fine sewing without a serger. I have a serger. I used to have used to have one of those fancy ones. Now I have a serger and a cover stitch instead of one big machine, and I love sewing knits on my single needle. It's fine, it's not necessary. What I find interesting about the serger thing is that when sergers first came out and they were started to become available for home use, it was revolutionary, right, to the whole sewing world. They were expensive, they were hard to thread, but they were cool.
World of pain to thread when they
Yeah.
first came out. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, it was. You guys think like now they're hard? They were just a nightmare, and an industrial serger is easier, but an industrial serger is also pretty hard sometimes to thread. So I guess the thing I've seen kind of go back and forth is where you want your clothes to look like ready to wear, but a sewist who's been sewing for a really long time knows that ready to wear isn't really that nice of a finish. It's pretty budget, and you wanted it originally to look ready to wear so people didn't think you made it at home, right? And now we're a lot more proud and we embrace more this that we make our things on our own and we're not making it look ready to wear, right? We've all picked apart things now from our closet and gone, wow, this stuff isn't made very well. Look at this. It doesn't. You don't notice it. You strive for this ready to wear look, and then you start examining ready to wear, and you're like, oh, maybe I'm striving for something nicer. And so I find that interesting, the flip-flop, and I just think of a serger as a tool. And like you said, is that the kind of finish you want? Do you want to overlock things or not? And I usually don't. I don't use my serger very much. So there's so many comments, you guys.
I know they're having a fun discussion
I'm
amongst
loving it.
themselves. I know.
Yeah, exactly. There's 94 people in my stream. Welcome, everybody.
I don't know how many
Knits
people.
versus woven. Those of us who learned to sew before the digital age were only taught to sew with wovens. I taught my son to sew wovens. He bought an overlock. Yeah, I find what I found interesting is that there was one point in my life where I was a industry professional to this high school program for it was a arts institute inside the high school. It was a really cool place, and they had to put on this fashion show at the end. It was grueling work. They didn't have to do all the sewing themselves, but they had to get 4 looks down the runway. And what I always found really interesting was when they would first come to me and say, these are the designs I want to do. They would always be designs that you could only pull on like it was knit. But the thing was, you go to Joann Fabrics at that time, there wasn't a lot of knits. You're going to get like fleece in a few colors and rib to match it and maybe some jersey or interlock if you're lucky. And it was all marketed towards babies. So pale pastel colors, not what these students, and these students wanted, they really loved primarily to design things that look like they're going to the prom, like fancy dress, right? And I'm like, well, how are you going to get into and out of this, and I have to tell you guys, like, I was very, very enabling with the students. I wanted to make their vision a reality. I didn't, other people are hard on them. I love teenagers, by the way. I really love them. And I would really try and make their vision a reality. But it was hard because I would be defending them the whole way, like, no, let them do whatever they want. I was just there to help. But the fact that initial conversation that they were having with me was always the one where I was saying, can you get into and out of this garment? They're initially thinking of me as like, oh, great, one more adult telling me what I can't do. And I'd say, no, I just want you to understand, when we go to the fabric store, it is dismal out there, honey. There's not a whole lot to pick from, and it gets really expensive. So let's talk about closures. These kids have never even sewn on a sewing machine, so you, as a wearer, we all wear knits all the time, every day, right? But we sew wovens. And I think that's another weird conundrum with knits and wovens, like where they've evolved. And thankfully, there's a lot more knits for sale.
I taught at Gibbs College. It's a junior college fashion school in Connecticut, and then they were bought out by it was called oh God, I'm having a brain thing on that now. But the bottom line is, when I started teaching there, so you would teach, the first class would be clothing construction, and you would teach, how to drape your bodice, how to drape your skirt, and then blah, blah, blah. Well, these kids, well, they weren't even kids. They were almost 20 years old, did not want to sew. I'm like, well, how do you think you're going to make fashion then? Like, they literally did not want to learn how to sew. And to me, that was so foreign. I'm like, they could sketch their butts off. Oh my God, the sketches, gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
But it was the clothing construction 1 and 2 were the hardest classes I taught, because it was a struggle to even get them to that, and how many quarters and eighths were in an inch. That was my
and you can't divide it by 10.
Yeah, that was a hard one.
That's so funny, because when I got to fashion school, I was the only student of that year that came knowing how to sew. There was one other person who sewed a little bit, but they left school shortly after, probably went to another school, or I don't know what happened. But and it was very clear. You all know in the chat that account, Can You Sew This For Me, on Instagram. If you know this account, you know what I'm talking about. And it's an account devoted to people that get asked to sew things, and then the person that asks them is like, well, you're going to do this for free, right? Or this for cheap, right? Or you don't tell. It's kind of like, like in that account, it's Sew Club, right? I don't tell people I know how to sew, like people will say, oh, I love your bag. I'm like, thanks. That's all I say. If someone asks me, can you hem my pants? I'm like, oh, I don't know how. That's my response now. I just say, oh, I'm really sorry. That's the one thing I don't know how to do. And the look on their face is awesome. It's super entertaining. But that was, if I had known in college that I should have hidden that I knew how to sew, that first year would have been a little easier, because of course all the students were like, hey, buddy, old pal, they want me to sew this stuff. And fashion school is grueling. It's not easy. It's a lot of work and a lot of drama.
Oh gosh, it's so funny.
So
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You might answer too. So John wants to know, he wants to move towards sustainable fabric choices. Do you have, and have been on hemp fabric kick. Do you know the state of the hemp fabric industry? Because I have no idea about hemp fabric.
I will be honest with you. I actually used to know a lot about the hemp industry, and I don't right now. I can tell you what I do know. And I got interested in sustainable fabrics very young, like before there was Earth Day, young, and it was in a very, very sorry state. Hemp has struggled to even become a legal fabric to be grown in the United States. And I'm not sure if they finally crossed that threshold or not. I think they haven't. So, but I could be completely wrong about this because hemp is a little easier to find than it used to be. Most of it's grown in India or China, from what I remember. And it is a very sustainable fiber, depending on how, the farm is going to treat the land and stuff like that. When you get into sustainable fibers, we're really careful because things like rayon or bamboo, they sound like they're natural fiber, but the process that they go to become that fabric is so terrible. It's the same with knitting yarn. Everyone thinks that bamboo is a natural fiber, but it is so far away from where it started from that it is, and the process is so toxic that you got to really tease out where your level is in sustainability, and don't be too hard on yourself on what paths you take. One of the fabric shops I really like for sustainable fabrics, and there's quite a few, so feel free to put some in the chat, but the one that comes to mind, and I'm really sorry, her website's probably down right now because she's moving. Her website is Makers Fabric. And she's very into sustainable textiles, but the textiles are gorgeous. The other thing is that she'll tell you why, and then you can also go and Google it, like, lyocell and tencel and all these other fibers that are kind of these offshoots of rayon are really worth looking into because some of them are actually making really good strides for sustainability. Sustainable is a very loaded word. So that's where I would say. I used to have a hemp vendor, Enviro Textile. They were a wholesale vendor, and they sold all kinds of different hemp. And it varied so much because it was so hard for them to get a hold of the product. The first thing I ever sewed my husband was a hemp shirt.
Ray says she thinks hemp is legal now in Kentucky. She thinks it's being grown there.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
I just also want to send some love to my chat because they're all encouraging each other. Like some of the comments are, oh, I'm a new sewer and I'm having trouble with this, that, or the other. And then other people are saying, don't give up, you can do it. And I love that.
I love that, yeah.
I love how supportive we all are.
Yeah. So sewing is hard. The problem with sewing, which is this huge whole topic for me, is that it's been devalued in our world, especially in our country in particular, because you can go to Target and get a t-shirt for $8. So the fact that recently I have read so many people discovering for the first time that actual real humans sew everything, that a machine does not automatically sew clothes, is astounding. That's how far away we are from realizing that sewing is a skill. It's a skill. It's like being an auto mechanic or something like that. It is a skill. It's not a talent. It's a skill. And you just keep at it. Like, just keep at it. It's don't take no for an answer is what I always say when you're talking to your sewing machine.
Yep.
Just keep going. But
you can walk away and then come back.
You can walk away and
you throw it out the
chuck
window.
It in the garbage when you're walking away.
I wanted to throw mine out the window sometimes, and so I have to say, all right, this is not working today. I'm going to come back tomorrow. And guess what? It doesn't matter if you're a beginner sewer or an expert sewer, because I have those days where nothing is going right.
Oh, if you just join my live stream, you'll see me live broadcast sewing drama all the time.
Yep. Things happen to everybody, so don't feel like, you're.
Yeah, the way I always say it is, if you're setting out to sew something, you're sewing it one time, That garment you see on the rack at the store, they first sewed that 10 times, the design samples, right? Because I've been there. I've worked in many design rooms with factories. I was really blessed that in California we still had factories while I came up in the fashion industry. A lot of them are gone now. And I got to see the whole process and be a part of it and be on the production floor doing all of it, right? So they first sew it 10 times to see, is the production floor gonna sign off on this? Like, nope, we can't make time on this. We can't produce this for the right amount of money. And design will push back, and then marketing will push back. No, it absolutely has to be that, it's like a three-way thing. It is not one person going, here's a pretty sketch, here you go, like Jen's students were. That's exactly how a lot of those first-year design students are, and they realize, like, oh, this is work. And you go into different shoots. I always had work because I became a pattern drafter / designer / grader. I could do all of it, and I always had work. The designers, they competed a lot. So that's another little thing. But those factories, they sew 10, then they'll sew 10 of each size when it gets closer. And then they're doing like a big run. They do it until they get it down pat. And each person sews one step, maybe 2 steps on that garment. They don't sew it all the way through. The sample maker sewed those first 10 all the way through, that one person. But the production floor, they put through 100 on the floor, get the whole machine, all the machines retooled, everything for it, and then they do a run, and then they find where the sticky points are. You're trying to sew one garment that you've spent $80 of fabric on, $10 for the pattern, $10 in notions.
Yeah.
You have your machine that's having a really bad day, and you're trying to make a perfect garment the very first time, so you have to be nice to yourself. I don't know why we're turning this into a pep talk. This is all about putting Jen on the spot.
Okay, we're done with the pep talk, but
all right, let me see here. I've kind of gone through a lot of my questions. We're already an hour in. Okay, let's open this up to the chat. Do you guys have any questions? Do you want to repeat any comments that I've missed that you would really like me to read? Please say so. And same with Jen, your viewers. What would you? Yeah, plus $300 of your time. Exactly, Susan. Yeah. So yeah, feel free to ask questions or make a comment. Rayanne, you're still here. I love it. I love that, Joan. After years of being a pushover, stop sewing for those who just needed pants hemmed. That's right.
I have friends on speed dial who do certain things. So if someone asks me to alter a wedding dress, for example, that goes to my friend Shorin.
Yeah.
Or I have other people who do other things. So I try to, I don't love alterations. I'm just going to be honest with you. So I try to send them to my friends who do love to do them.
Yeah. Yeah. When I used to live on the coast, there was a gal I knew doing alterations a lot. I finally said, do you want all the work? Like people ask me to do this. Do you want all of that? And she said, yeah. I said, are you willing to open a business? And she said, are you serious? I said, yeah. And she did. She opened up a business and became 60 hours a week busy doing stuff. So it's definitely, I was so thrilled to just send her everything. All right, Shem would like to know, what is your Jen's background in sewing prior to streaming? Give us your credentials. She also knows so many big names, you guys. So let's let her name drop a little too.
I learned to sew myself. And then I had my first daughter, Anna, and I thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and that lasted about 3 months. So I started working at a very small sewing store in Connecticut, and that's where I learned to sew. And then I made friends with my friend Eric, who I'm still friends with to this day. He's really the one that taught me all of my technical draping, drafting, because he had the top job at Gap. He was the top technical designer where he would press go on production. So I would drive to his house in New Jersey and I would spend the whole day picking his brain. So that's how I learned to drape and draft. And then I just, once Manchester Sewing closed, the store that I used to work at went out of business. I thought the universe is telling me to do J Stern design. So I launched my original jeans, my tee, and khaki pants.
Oh, wow.
And then I started teaching at Sanford Brown College. Oh, Sanford Brown College didn't give college. That's the other name. I couldn't think of a second ago, but that killed J Stern Designs because I thought I could teach college level design and stuff Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then do J Stern Designs Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I ended up killing J Stern Designs. And then when that school closed, I said the universe is telling me to do J Stern Design. So I've just been growing with it and working with it. I will just tell you, having your own little business is very challenging, and you can spend a lot of time making yourself busy doing stuff that really isn't helping you. So, I've been working at this for a very long time now. My first patterns were 2007. So that's a
Wow.
long time. So I finally started to key into some of the more effective ways to, work on things and develop things. Somebody in the chat asked us if we were coming out with new patterns. I don't know if you are, but I do have my pants pattern coming out.
I was going to give you an opportunity at the end of the stream to talk about what you got coming up, so we can talk about that then.
Yeah, no. I just got I just watched my whole chat go. So I don't know what happened in that moment, but
Oh, you probably had scrolled a little.
yeah,
Yeah, so you are self-taught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's taken me so long because I'm one of those people. This is the perfect example. I was teaching jean construction.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started doing my jean waistband, I would sew I put the facing and the waistband together. I would sew the short end, I'd go across and sew the other short end. So when I had to put it onto the jeans waistline, it had to match up perfectly there because I already sewed those short ends.
Yeah.
Then one day I was like, this is a pain in the butt.
That's
and
a pain in the butt.
and I realized, wow, look, you could just fold it over and fold it down if you don't sew those short ends. And I told my class that, and they all looked at me and said, yeah, we've been doing that forever. So sometimes when you self-teach yourself and you don't look at what other people are doing, it takes you the long way to get there. So
yeah.
I think I'm on the other side of that now. I think I've learned enough so I can now be more effective as I'm moving along. But I did spend a lot of time figuring things out myself.
Yeah.
Doing it the long way or the wrong way until it clicked. So
back in our day, we didn't have the internet.
I did spend a lot of time.
Yeah, you didn't know to even, yeah, exactly. I've learned so much from my chat. I hadn't used starch till last year. Last year meaning 2022. That was the first time I've ever used starch. I've never used Frayed Check. It's still in the bottle.
You have Material Magic? I discovered Material Magic. I love it.
I don't know what that is.
It's like a starch, but you spray it on like a starch. It's a pump, and then you iron it flat, and your knit or your stretchy fabric or your lightweight fabric almost feels like paper.
Okay,
and then it just
someone please make a note for me, since they're please make a note and remind me what that is later. Okay.
Material Magic.
Please from the guild. That's awesome. There's so many things like that from the home sewing world that I've never used or encountered, and it's because all my sewing was like high school sewing, immediately went to college, and then it was only production style sewing from then on out, right? And so when I came to streaming, I mean, I'd sewn things for myself before I was live streamed, but I'd never really been so also entering the home sewing world as a streamer. There was an internet now and social media, and Instagram was actually, kind of a baby when I joined it. And so it's changed a lot as well. And I was on there mostly for knitting because of chicken boots. And my friends would be like, Saremy, did you see that there's this now a pattern company for curvy people? Have you seen these jeans? There's actually a good jeans pattern now. And they were kind of like, it was tantalizing, right? But I was knitting a lot at the time. Didn't have any time to sew for me. And then I have literally been learning about home sewing in a way all over again. It's so PDF patterns, those didn't exist also, all these things. Material Magic. Okay, thanks, Barbara. Remind me later.
Material without the MA.
Yeah, okay, exactly. That's exactly it. All right, cool. Yeah, so I buy those things and I never use them, I will admit. I hardly use pins, and I think that's something I've had to I've had to adjust my sewing style for the stream so that what I was doing wasn't so inaccessible in a way. It was a little more approachable. I started using pins again. Things like that. I know it's just I just find it easier, and not in a braggy way. It's just some of the little things you learn on a production floor when you're working with sample makers and things. They're not loud pins. You just learn little cool things that they do.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the coolest innovations on production floors and what they do. Rayanne and I can also tell you, we contracted with a factory once, and we gave them our easiest things to sew. They only did it for like a year and a half, but it was great. It relieved the burden of Rayanne sewing all that stuff, and she could focus on limited edition things and other things that we did. And she and I were the primary sewists, and we had the factory, and then we'd bring people in to do quality control and labels and adding zipper pulls and things like that. And the simplest thing of like, we had this little handle. It was just a little 2-inch piece of fabric that you sewed the long end and turned it. That was that brought the factory to a halt. Turning that handle brought the factory to a halt. They were like, what? We don't want to do this. So they would fold and edge stitch it instead. I allowed them to do that. But me and Ran went there, and she sewed one of everything in front of the sewists. And it was such an incredible experience for both of us. And I love production floors. I can't tell you how. I'm an actual Industrial Revolution nerd. I've actually gone to an Industrial Revolution museum in Belgium. Like, I really love production stuff. It's really fascinating to me. It was just really cool seeing how they had adapted weird little things at their machine, because they're not allowed a lot for safety reasons and for making their piece rate time, because piece rate is so profitable. But like, even, they'd have a little piece of paper that they would do, and it would like do something. It was so cool how they adapt and get fast.
And they have machines that, like, I saw this video, it was many years ago, like my first thing was jeans when I started. And I watched this video of this guy who had all of the commercial sewing equipment to make jeans in this barn. And he did this really cool video. So he takes like he takes the 2 back legs, goes like this, puts it into the machine. It comes out the other side, all flat felled.
Flat felled, exactly.
I was like, yeah. Look at that. It just, whoop. I was like,
yeah.
What?
The world of machines is like a whole conversation. First time I went to a factory, I was in college, and we were getting a tour, and it was in downtown LA. And I walked by a machine that was going full speed, and there was a cinder block on the pedal and no one operating it. It was doing whatever it was doing, like probably making a spaghetti strap or something. It was probably a binding machine, like, because me and Rand have thought of doing stuff like that. It's like, can't this just sew itself? All right, I have a question for you, Jen. Shem says, he has like a jeans question. Okay, Jen has mentioned her jeans a few times. Does she have a preferred thread? Does she like a heavier thread in the loopers of serging?
Okay, so the only thing I use the serger for when I'm doing my jeans is to clean finish the edges. And when I do jeans or pants, I like to clean finish every edge before I start construction, so I don't have to bob back and forth.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of times I'll just pick a cool color, like I'll use like a maroon red. So like I've got all that cool finishing on the inside. Top stitching thread, YLI makes their jean stitch thread. It's, I think, one of the thicker ones. I do like that, but a lot of sewing machines don't like it. And it's hard to get the tension right. Sometimes you have to tighten the top tension, and I always use a matching all-purpose thread in the bobbin, because if you put top stitching thread in your bobbin, a lot of home sewing machines don't like that either.
No, mine won't. Mine's a big fat nope on that.
So the Gutermann makes a nice top stitching thread, and Coates and Clark has come a long way.
Yeah.
Their threads are a lot nicer, and their top stitching thread is not as heavy, but it works really nice in the machine, I think, because it isn't as heavy.
Okay.
So those, that's for heavier threads, I'm more concerned with the top stitching than serging, I think.
Okay, we had another question someone alerted me to. Jane asked, different kind of question. How do you two feel about the state of the fashion world right now? Does it inspire you? If not, why not? I'll let you go first if you want.
Well, I'm still a subscriber of Vogue magazine, so that's where
Hmm.
I get my fashion. Um, I'm noticing lately I'm not pulling as many sheets out of the magazine. I pull out the things that inspire me and I put them in a binder. And lately, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not finding as much as I'm enamored with as I did. And I don't know if it's because I'm more busy and I just don't have time to really look at it.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm also very interested in all of the, sustainable fashion and the slow fashion and, not buying things that you can just throw away. So I'm
Hmm.
more, like I'm more interested in things like that. I don't know if I'm even answering the question, but
You can say whatever you want. For my part, I'll be honest. I don't ever look at fashion or runway stuff. I am a product of the fashion industry, and I don't like it. It's a really it's a tough industry. I am a huge proponent, and I've spent my adult life being a proponent of domestic manufacturing and bringing back more production in our country, thereby giving a more of an appreciation of construction and the skill and paying people. It is a really good job. So fashion for me, I am not someone to wear stuff like that. Like, I don't have fancy clothes or anything like that. I dress the same weekdays and weekends, you know. Um, I will say, though, that I signed up for this thing called Behind the Seams that Allison Company Patterns put on starting in the fall, like in October. And it has really been good for me because I did go into the fashion industry to design, even though I was really production focused and I really loved the engineering and stuff like that. I did want to design clothes. And one of the really cool things about working with the high school students was they reminded me what it was like to be really excited about designing something. And then I started Chicken Boots. And I started Chicken Boots, which I don't want to get off topic about this because people are always really curious when I say this. In California, you cannot have a garment business without having a garment manufacturer's license. There's a very old law on the books. And so I had to do accessories because it's a loophole in the law if you do non-wearable items. Hence
mm,
why I started a bag business. Clothing has always been my first love, though. So I kind of lost my thread there as far as like, I kind of like where I feel about the fashion industry. But it isn't something. Oh, the behind the seams. So behind the seams, why did I get from there to there? Anyway, behind the seams is a monthly exploration of fashion. And so there's a Zoom and they take on a period of time and they show you all of the fashions from that. And it's Alice and her daughter works at a museum. She works at the V&A. And so it's really cool and it's been very inspiring. Oh, and that's why, because the students really inspired me and reminded me that I love to design. And this has been a really good thing for me because I really get kind of in the weeds of things, and I am an idea person. I could do 10 million different jobs and I'd be thrilled. I love working. I love being busy. Behind the scenes has been a really good thing. Like the first one, they started in Greek and Roman times, and you think, well, how exciting can that be? They've been so amazing. They've been really, really amazing. I'm really loving it because at the end of each one, Alice, she is a true designer. Even she has a home sewing pattern, but she thinks like a true fashion designer, and she will drape things and make these really cool things using these elements from each of these periods of time. I'm not really describing it really well. I know a couple, at least Libby's in chat, she's doing it too. It has been really cool. So I don't know if that really answers your question, Jane, but as far as fashion on the runway, I'm not interested really. It's a one-off. It's all trickle down. So I like production stuff.
one of my goals 2023, I don't have New Year's resolutions, I have goals. So one of them is me made wardrobe. So I'm trying to be J Stern Designs clothes all the time. So I'm making my own little personal runway, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Or like the capsule wardrobe thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like I started to explore that last year and then I got kind of lost in the sauce on it. So Oh,
Yeah.
you're doing behind the seams too, Mary? Awesome. Yeah, it has been really, really great. Someone asked a question. Where is it? You're a seamstress and you make dresses from scratch for my clients, but I wear really basic clothes. Oh gosh, I feel like that is really common with very popular fashion designers. They wear all black.
Here.
Susan Price. Oh, Susan, that's a big question. I feel like we could spend an hour on this. This is a hot button topic right now. What are your thoughts of indie companies going to a subscription model? First Cashmere and now Closet Core. Did you see the Closet Core announcement yesterday, Jen? They have started a new subscription service for, oh, I mentioned it to you, for patterns.
You told me about it. I haven't
Yeah.
had a chance to check it out yet.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about those, or do you, I mean, Jen isn't, like, she hasn't saddled herself with sewing every home sewing pattern out there like I have.
I'm on a different, like Saremy, I love watching her sometimes because I get to see her sewing other people's stuff, and so I'm always in my own stuff. So it's a little bit of a different thing. I did try doing a subscription club with my friend Gail. We did Stitching Zen with Gail and Jen, where we had exclusive patterns and, weekly live streams. And I think in the end, we just felt like it was just so much work. And then the pandemic hit, and it was just very hard we were really trying to rev up a second year. And then she started going in a different direction, and I'm in a different direction. So we still, talk a lot, and we still, hang out and stuff. But I think subscriptions are, I don't, well, I don't know. I think.
You can be candid here. It's only like 150 people.
Yeah, well, from my experience with the subscription club that Gail and I had, I think, I don't want to say they're a dime a dozen now, but everybody has a subscription club. So for me, I don't think I'm going to do that for my business because I already tried it and it was a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And some people don't want to buy into everything. I want people to choose what they like. Like, buy the pattern you like and work on the one you like. And I don't want people to feel like if you're in a subscription, you have to pay every month. Some months you're not going to get anything you like because you can't like everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's my thing about subscription clubs. I think it's hard each month to provide. I would be nuts. Like if I was doing it myself, I'd be like, oh my God, am I providing what everyone likes this month? You know what I mean? I think it would be a lot of pressure for me.
Yeah, and to be clear, all the ones that I've seen out, so far, let you skip a month, or I think with Cashmere and Closet Core, their models, you can just, if you want that month's pattern but you don't want the next, you just cancel your membership. So there is that, they can do that. Well, and I have a lot of opinions about this, but I don't know if we really want to get into it or not.
Well, I also think it's hard. Like, so Cashmere and Closet Core, they're a little company. They have more than one person. Like I am a single woman band here. Like I do everything myself.
Yeah.
So like everything myself. I draw my patterns. I test them. I scan them in. I grade them. I draw my own illustrations. I write all my own instructions. I mean, I shoot my own video. Everything is all just me. So that sort of limits also what I can
take on
if I'm just being by myself. So that's part of my struggle is being a one woman.
Yeah.
I mean, I do a social media manager, which helps me, but other than by myself.
Yeah, I know that one woman band thing really well. I think what the subscription model really illustrates is how hard it is to make money as a pattern company. And I would love to do a video about this, and I'd love to interview some pattern companies. I don't know if they would be okay with that or not, or maybe even do like a, I even have like 3-4 pages in my notebook devoted to this idea, because I would love to do, even if it was like a anonymous poll that they could answer so they don't, I don't know who it is. But I think that if you do the math, I know we all complain about a pattern being like $14 or $18, but if you do the math on what it would take to survive as a pattern company, because I'm literally a trained professional pattern drafter. I have learned 3 or 4 different CAD programs. I know how to grade patterns. I've done patterns for you name it. I've done it. Patented stuff, military stuff, outdoor gear, waterproof, breathable, children's wear, women's, men's. I've done all of that stuff, athletic apparel. And I don't have a pattern company because if you do the math and you go, what would it take for me to have a salary of 50 grand a year after my business expenses? How many patterns would that be? Okay, if you're selling that many patterns, you can't do that alone. Now you've added an employee. How many more patterns do you have to sell to pay for that employee? So I understand why everyone thinks patterns are really expensive, but they're not enough. They're not expensive enough. And now pattern companies are going to have to probably supplement with some sort of guaranteed income. And I know people's fears about, oh, these patterns are going to be less than your other patterns, but these companies are still continuing to put out great patterns throughout the year like they usually would. So I'm not going to take over this whole thing on my opinions about this, but I have thought about it a lot, and I think it's an interesting conversation, and I've been watching the comments under Closet Core's announcement because, you know, like someone else said here, do you think subscription service encourage overconsumption? Someone says they seem overwhelming for the pattern maker and the buyer. Yeah, I can't imagine if you keep up with it all. I like, behind the scenes is Alice and Company patterns, Michelle. I think like it'll be interesting to watch it happen, you know? I don't know. I do have a lot of opinions and thoughts about this. And it's interesting because I will say also, for full transparency's sake, I actually do have subscriptions myself because I have a community, a private sewing community that's open to everybody, free to join. And inside there are paid tiers, kind of like a Patreon thing, right? So you're subscribing. And my initial reaction was like, oh, another person that's much bigger than me, gonna be taking up the dollars of everybody. But then I was like, Saremy, they're a pattern company. That's different. They have a product. For me, the product is me. And as Jen will probably agree with me, making a living doing what we're doing is pretty much impossible. Our ad revenue is dollars, so it's not very much money. We would not notice it very much if it was gone. So you can't do it for that. You have to supplement somehow. And in my community, it's not about one pattern, right? It's about all patterns. And so that's the distinguishing factor. Closet Core is going to be all about their patterns. Cashmere is going to be all about their patterns. So you can go there and get the help directly from their patterns. But you can't go in there and go, I have this paper theory pattern I'm selling, or sewing. Can you help me with that? So it's different, you know. And I'm jury's still out on how I feel about my own subscription thing, you know, it's been selling for a year. So.
But I think a community subscription is different than a pattern subscription. I think.
Yes. And their communities are going to be different than mine. Mine's exactly. A true community.
You know, I think, you know, like I could not survive if I didn't supplement my pattern income by teaching. So I make most of my money teaching. Yes. So for me, it's developing the patterns I want to teach with.
Yeah.
Because if I was just making patterns and relying on surviving with patterns, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Oh my gosh, I hate marketing. I hate marketing so much. I hate promoting things.
I'm the worst for myself. Like I am not a businesswoman. I want to do everything for free. I don't want to charge people. You know, so I had to start charging for things because I need to pay the mortgage. And that's, you know, it's hard. It's hard for me to charge.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I have so many thoughts about that too. I mean, just being someone that I just want to work. Like the thing is, I really loved, what I've learned about me is I really like community, and I like bringing people together. I'm a bit of an introvert. That's very common in streamers. It doesn't seem believable that I would live stream and I could be, but I am a hermit, like at home. I'm pretty private. But I do love the community. I love everyone coming together. I love the encouragement. My community is zero drama, super positive, and it's been really an amazing experience. However, I would keep the community and get a job doing what I love doing in a heartbeat. Like, I just want to work somewhere, you know, and maybe live stream occasionally. Like, I just want to be busy and work and support my family, you know, like be someone who, you know, contributes. And
Yes.
it's, after losing the factory, it's really, you know, my business, it's like, well, here we are. We're live streaming. This is it. We're not ninja playing Fortnite, you guys. We're not billionaires doing this.
Well, so I have my little Facebook group, which is my community, your design stitch sew embroider, and I invite people to ask me questions, even if it's not my pattern. So, and I know that's a little bit unique because I know usually if someone is, you know, has a pattern line, usually their groups are just for their own patterns. But, you know, if someone's working on something and they need help, I am very happy to help, you know, with whatever pattern you're working on. So I think that that's kind of fun, you know, like, you know, I can see different things and help people.
You are really helpful. I've read so many of the comment sections of your YouTube videos because they're informative and I enjoy seeing your responses. And you're really good at understanding what the person's asking you, because sometimes I'm like, well, I don't understand what that means. And when I see your answer, I'm like, oh, she knew exactly what they were asking because she's heard it before and she's heard it phrased that way before. We're both people that answer to every comment on our YouTube channel. Every comment. I can even show you my studio app. It'll say it's zeroed out. Like it's like obsession.
I was mortified when I realized I thought I was answering questions and I went to go look at I had questions from 6 years ago. So I sat in my chair, answered questions for 12 hours, and I only got up to within a year. It took me a week after that to clear all my backlog. So now I wake up, I make my coffee, and it really starts my day nicely to just interact with my YouTuber questions or comments or whatever. And so now I make sure I do answer them every day because I get a lot. So if I don't answer them every day, I'm screwed. So but I love answering them. So please ask questions. I will answer. And
did that, when you noticed all those past things, was that this time this year or the previous, or like in 2022 or 2021 sometime?
It was earlier this year. It was earlier.
That happened to me too. I think something with YouTube happened because all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, there's hundreds of comments here I never replied to. So I think something.
Because at the end of every video, I say, all right, if you have any questions or comments about this topic, please post them below and I will help you. And then I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I have all these questions. And so as I'm answering the questions, you know how like the notifications pop up on the side of your monitor? I'm getting all these, someone liked that one, someone liked that. So I'm thinking from like 5 years ago, I'm answering questions. People are liking the responses. I'm like, oh my God.
It's tough, y'all. So this will be a really good moment to actually tell you all something about YouTube is that the things that help any of your favorite YouTubers channels is watching the video, watch time, and commenting on the video. Those are the two biggest things you can do for any YouTuber you really like. Likes have nothing to do for us. They are for viewers to go, a lot of people like this video, maybe I'll watch it. So it does help us in this kind of more subtle way. But the only thing that drives ad revenue for us and recommendations is if you watch the video and you comment. Engagement.
Yep.
Even subscribing. We could have 100 subscribers each and be making the exact same ad revenue. It doesn't matter. Subscribers are just kind of a fun thing. And I'm actually really close to 20K. So I've been watching it and I'm like, who cares, Saremy? Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen when I hit 20K. All right, I've had so many comments, and I want to wrap this up because we're 3 hours apart. She's on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. I don't want to keep her from dinner. So you guys have all these, you have all these comments about the subscriptions. Yeah, it is definitely a hot button topic. Someone did say something I wanted to bring up. I just want to make sure. All right, well, maybe we can wrap this up. And so Jen, tell us a little bit about, you've got 100 people or more here. tell us what you want them to watch out for you, and maybe share again your 2023 goal so that we can cheer you on for this and help you make it happen. So.
Oh, well, I am so excited about pants fitting now. Pants is where I am. And if you've been following along with me, you know that I completely reviewed the top down center out pants fitting method, which invigorated me because it's so accessible and it's so easy for people to work with. And based on that experience, I got more excited about making a pants pattern. And if you know my pattern line, you know I have like 5 different jean patterns. And I just have my Happy Pants Sloper, which is not a fashion pattern. So I'm coming out with my first fashion pattern since my khaki pants.
Yay!
2007. And let me just
now, can people sign up like for a newsletter for you?
I have a newsletter. Yep. And if you go to my Instagram and you go to my link tree, you can sign up for it there directly, or you can also sign up for it anywhere on any of my pages of my, jsterndesigns.com.
Okay.
But can you guys be the first people I float by my possible name for my pants?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, it's a debut video too.
This is the very first, and just in full transparency, I wanted to name it like a name. So my daughter Anna and I looked at popular baby names for 2023. We're going to call it Sorsha Classic Slim Trousers. What do you think of that?
Sorsha?
Sorsha.
Okay, can you spell that?
Sorcha. Sorsha.
Oh, you're not spelling it the Irish way.
Well, no, that was our joke. Anna loved all the Irish names, but you can't pronounce them and spell them. So Sorsha, it sounds just like it looks.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because I'd have to, when she would give me a name, I'd go Google if like Style Arc or Core Closet or any of the big companies.
Is the hashtag taken?
Yeah, is it already all over the Google? So Sorsha is there's someone who did like a bodysuit or something, but so I think I'm going to call it that. It's not in stone yet, but I want a fun, trendy name.
I like it. I like it. I also like that when you look at it, it'll be like kind of a hint to sorcery. So pants sorcery.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that, Saremy. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
I love that the actress. What's her name? Sorsha. I can't think of her last name, but she's pretty cute. Anyway.
Well, and I like, and I'm a Sound of Music fan. So Brigitte, that was my other thing. But she's like the smart little kid, so I'll save that for something else. But it was so funny. We were literally batting back and forth 45 minutes. Anna would tell me names, and I would look them up and see if they were already pants patterns. So it's gonna be Sorsha. But I mean, it could be sorcery too. I like that.
I'm terrible at naming things. Like even Rayanne one time was like, "You're not allowed to name anything that begins with the letter P ever again." And I was like, "Oh, that's hard." Everything was project bag, pattern holder. I don't know, everything, pocket bucket. I'm the lamest.
My first set of patterns, my first collection, the T, the khaki pants, Mrs. Jeans, women's jeans.
Exactly.
And my most creative one was the top with 2 collars and a peplum.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm really trying to come up with, a name that's like, a name. So I'm using names this year. It's going to be the year of the names.
Okay.
A couple people like the name. Thank you, guys.
And it's Saoirse Ronan is the actress I was thinking of.
Ronan was going to be my other, Ronan Pants was going to be the other one. And
I like that name. She's my favorite character to play in a video game.
Well, I didn't know she was an actress. Like I didn't realize that together. But Rowan, Rowan, was the other name we were floating. Rowan.
I had a friend name her son Rowan. She picked a gender neutral name. She's like, I don't know if it's gonna be a boy or girl. I'm gonna pick one name, and it was Rowan. And she spelled it Roan.
Yeah, Anna's like, let's find unique or gender neutral names. So
just don't use Saremy. It's a pain in the butt. All right, so I have a little lightning round for Jen. A little quiz. There's no wrong answer.
Okay, I'm ready.
I haven't looked at this since I wrote down these ideas, so hopefully I have enough here. All right. If you could only choose one, Jen, seam ripper or blade?
Seam ripper.
Tube turner or loop turner?
Tube turner.
Draping or drafting? Ooh.
I guess drafting.
Serger or zigzag?
Serger.
Hand sewing, machine sewing?
Machine sewing.
Wovens or knits?
I guess it's
And the first thing you ever machine sewed? What is the first thing you ever machine sewed?
well, I made a jumper to wear to the holiday open house when I first got my job at Manchester Sewing, and I thought I did such a great job, and it sucked. Like I wore it, but the zipper wasn't good. Like
Yeah.
it looked like I made it,
Yeah.
not knowing how to sew. So I went to the holiday open house, and when I saw what the other people were making, the things they wore, I was blown away.
Showcasing their all.
Beautiful. Oh, so I sucked it out of every one of them. I learned every flaming thing I could have learned, and they were so gracious and took me under their wing. And of course, it was like working with a store full of moms, right? Because I was the youngest one.
Yeah.
And so it was a jumper. I mean, I made things earlier than that, but that's the first thing I made that I thought was really cool. And then when I wore it with a turtleneck, this was like the 90s. I go to the holiday open house. I'm like, wow.
And for those of you outside the United States, a jumper here is not a sweater. It's like a pinafore. It's like
It's like a strap.
sleeveless dress that you
Yeah,
can wear a
sleeveless
shirt
dress.
under.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah. So I should qualify that. But I want you to know, Jen, that if I had gone to that, I would have immediately gravitated towards you because I love that that is the most honest expression of your sewing. That you came in what you could do
Yeah.
and you showed up, and I love that. That is definitely the person I want to get to know. Not the person that's like, I'm gonna, well, you never know like someone's intent when they're sewing, right? I'm not gonna say they're all trying to show off. Some of them might have been, but others may have been like, I'm so proud that I can do this now. I want to show off. I have a place to wear this. So there's lots of reasons, right? So, okay, one last question from Shem. He asks, how do we get more men into sewing? Why do designers seem to shy away from men's designs? Oh, I know the answer to that, but the last one.
I have man jeans coming, by the way.
Ooh.
That's right after the pants, man jeans.
Hear that, Shem?
My husband needs them really bad because he has a problem with the Levi's going down to his knees.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to be making him he's going to be my fit model.
Yeah. There's really not a whole lot of men's silhouettes, that you can change from. They have the button-down shirt. They have jeans. They have a t-shirt. There are a few people out there doing fashion pieces, but I think by and large, there's just not. You guys are just got kind of a rip-off in variety, to be honest, when it comes to fashion.
I agree.
Yeah. And I think that's all it is. Every July I only sew menswear, and there's more and more patterns, but when I look at it, I'm like, what does my husband wear every day? Can I, if I make this, will he wear it? There's been a few things that I got hired I'll make the video, like the how-to video for them, and sometimes I have to keep the sample. Not like it's a burden, but sometimes, it's like, I can't send the sample to the person because they're out of the country, and I get to keep it. And there's been a couple things I'm like, I wonder if he'll wear it. And eventually, yeah, he's been wearing everything I've made him, so that's good.
Well, that was the inspiration for my shirt jacket. So my shacket, my shirt jacket, aka the shacket.
Yeah, shacket. The word shacket is not allowed on my channel, Jen. I'm gonna have to time you out.
Okay, I'm good with that because I didn't even realize what it was till my daughter told me. But
overshirt.
Overshirt, yes. My husband wore this red overshirt that my parents gave him for 10 years, and it's so worn out that I literally made a new fleece version for him, and then it came out so lovely that I made it into a graded unisex pattern.
Oh, great.
So he wears that thing like an Olympic sport. So
that's awesome. All right. And that's a pattern you have now, or it's coming out?
No, it's here. It's
okay, cool. All right. I don't know how we get more men into sewing, Shem. I do think there's a lot of men in sewing. I don't think that the bulk of them sew fashion clothing. I think a lot of them get into making, doing leather work or denim work is what I see when they approach me, and because usually they come to me about asking machines, what machines they need. So I'm not a man, so I don't know, but yeah.
I used to follow along with that guy, male pattern baldness or something.
Oh, that's a cute name. I
Male,
follow a few.
yeah, and I do get a lot of comments from men on my channel, so I do know that people,
Yeah.
They are interested in learning sewing.
You
and
are the 3% on my channel.
Woo!
3%. Do you have anything else you want to add today, Jen? Or
This was super fun.
This was super
so
fun.
much fun.
I think we should do this again.
We're gonna do it again, and I'm gonna think up the secret topic.
Oh, well, now that the shoe's on the other foot, I'm kind of regretting this.
I'm gonna have a speed round. I'm gonna have a secret topic.
She's gonna have a dunk tank.
I'm gonna have a dunk tank.
Please don't make me eat things I don't like.
Yeah. I'm gonna send you a package that you have to open on the street. No, I'm like,
oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
this was super
all
fun.
right, chat. Well, thanks for coming. I'm really glad we pulled this off. And
Yes.
I've been thinking about this for 2 months, so I'm so happy it finally happened, and it did, and that Jen was super willing to just let me throw her to the wolves. You guys are like sheep, though, So,
really fun. I had a really good time.
Yeah, and what else do I want to say? I don't have a newsletter. I have a website, soso.live, and I have a guild. If you can check it out, sosoguild.com. But we're here to promote Jen today. And watch out for her pants patterns coming soon. So, yeah. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. Nice to see you all.
Yes, thank you guys for
okay,
coming.
I'm going to end the stream on my end, Jen. That won't end the Zoom. So we'll still be here in a Zoom together. Just so you
My
don't.
stream too.
So don't start picking your nose as soon as I end the stream, okay?
Okay, should I end it too?
If you want.
All right, let's count to 3. Ready?
All right, ready? Bye, guys. I'll see you next time. I'm going to put up my little project thumbnail. So thanks for coming, you guys. Bye.
All right, bye.